Total Screen proudly presents their official podcast, On Screen, with your hosts, Tyson Gifford and William Rohrig. Hello, everybody, and welcome to On Screen, the official podcast of the Total Screen. My name is Tyson.
My name is Will.
And today, for our 225th episode of this podcast, we are doing what we always do on every 25th episode of the podcast, which is a round of advocates of great entertainment. This week, we are doing our favorite director's best film. So that's going to be our main topic. But before that, we've got an On the Horizon segment, and we have an On Beat segment with 5 trailers we're going to go over. But let's kick things off with On the Horizon.
On the horizon.
On the Horizon is where we talk about what's coming up in the next week or so. And we're going to start things off with DTF St. Louis. This is a new series with Jason Bateman, David Harbour. It's kind of like a weird, like, something going wrong in the suburbs type show. And that's coming on Sunday, March 1st on HBO and HBO Max. Legacy of Kain, Defiance Remastered is coming on Monday, March 2nd to PC, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, Switch, and Switch 2. Scott Pilgrim EX is coming on Tuesday, March 3rd to PC, PS4, PS5, Xbox Series X, and Switch. Young Sherlock is coming on Wednesday, March 5th to Amazon Prime. Marathon is coming on Thursday, March 5th to PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X. Pokemon Pokopia is coming on Thursday, March 5th to Switch 2. War Machine, this is the Alan Ritchson, I called it Mecha Predator when we talked about the trailer. That is coming on Friday, March 6th to Netflix. The Bride is also coming on Friday, March 6th to theaters. This is the one with Jesse Buckley and Christian Bale. It's like The Bride of Frankenstein, but like a weird artistic Bonnie and Clyde type adaptation of that. That's, I believe it's the directorial debut of Maggie Gyllenhaal. So Hoppers, which is the new Pixar movie, is coming on Friday, March 6th to theaters. Heel is coming to theaters on Friday, March 6th. We talked about this trailer a while back. It's the one with Stephen Graham from Adolescence, and it's about him like keeping a kid like in his basement and like behavioral training him, if you remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Protector is the new Mila Jovovich action movie that's coming on Friday, March 6th to theaters. And that is it for our On the Horizon segment. Now we're going to move on to On Beat. On Beat. On Beat is our news segment, and we're going to start things off. These are all trailers that we're covering this week. We're going to start things off with The Yeti, which has a very, very Grindhouse trailer, but the movie didn't look that Grindhouse to me.
I mean, looks like a
creature feature.
Yeah, an old school creature feature, like.
But the trailer was like
sort of like
70s
a Western.
Grindhouse.
Yes. Yeah, they were definitely like going for that.
It's weird because like in the trailer you see like clips of the movie and stuff, and it's like it doesn't really look like a Grindhouse thing, and then it cuts to like title cards and they're all like slanted and there's film grain everywhere and stuff, and it's like, why are they presenting this like so like as such like a Grindhouse movie? It doesn't really look like, it looks like a creature feature, which kind of can be Grindhouse, but it doesn't really necessarily look very Grindhouse to me. It's kind of interesting. I'm curious as to what the actual tone of the movie is, like if the movie has that sort of presentation as well, or if it's just like the trailer.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, just kind of a creature feature about a Yeti. It takes place in Alaska in like the late 1940s. It's like post-World War II stuff. It's interesting how much grindhousey type stuff and like creature feature and gonzo type films are kind of coming back now, you know?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Speaking of that, we got another movie that kind of feels along those lines, and that's Pretty Lethal, which is coming.
This is like another twist on like the John Wick formula.
Kind of. It's It's like ballerinas at a school, isolated, and then it's almost like not Ready or Not, but like almost like they're being hunted or something, and then they decide to fight back. So it's almost like that Ready or Not ripoff movie that we saw like the trailer for.
True, yeah.
recently.
It does have like Ready or Not vibes.
Yeah.
With like a much larger cast.
Because they're not like ballerinas with like a secret past or something, or ballerinas that are actually assassins. They're like ballerinas that like figure out that they can like fight because of their ballerina skills.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, that looks pretty interesting. Then this is the second trailer we're covering for Normal, which is the new Bob Odenkirk action movie. And this is much more like lore specific. Like the first trailer like was really just going like, oh, there's this guy, he's sheriff in this small town in Minnesota, and it just seems like a nice place, but then this bank robbery happens, and this guy has some kind of past, he knows how to use weapons, what's going on? It's very like in that John Wick, kind of vibe. Or like, you could
Well,
say
it's
in
like
that Nobody kind of vibe, because he did that movie as well.
He did that movie as well. Yeah, but it's interesting because it's not like, he's not the only person there's more to it that sees that town has more to it going on than what's on the surface.
That's what we got in this trailer.
Yes.
Like, we didn't see any of that in the last trailer. In this trailer, they start going into like, okay, there's something going on with this town. They have like way too much money. They shouldn't have it. There's like a scene at the very end of the trailer where like somebody gets like an alert like on a pager, and they pull it out and it says like Normal Minnesota or whatever on the pager.
Yeah. Like,
And then there's like Yakuza. Yeah, it's just like, what are the Yakuza doing in Minnesota?
yeah, exactly. What interest do the Yakuza have in a small Minnesota town?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
And it's also funny because we knew Bob Odenkirk was in it. In the last trailer, we also saw that Henry Winkler was in it. I don't know if we saw Lena Headey in the last trailer or not.
I don't remember seeing her.
Yeah.
We definitely see her here.
But it's just kind of funny to imagine it's Saul Goodman, the Fonz, and Cersei Lannister in Minnesota. It sounds like the setup to a joke.
Oh,
Saul
yeah.
Goodman walks into a bar and he
Yeah.
talks to Cersei Lannister and says, "Hey!"
Hey.
I don't know, but it looks good. It started going more into the lore and making this town seem more interesting and stuff. Like, that kind of ramped it up. It is that kind of John Wick effect of like, you have the action movie, you have the character and everything, that's cool and all, but it's like all that like lore that kind of comes with it of like the Continental and the gold coins and stuff that starts to really make it more interesting,
Oh, yeah.
So this was like the lore trailer for Normal. Next, we got a trailer for Mortal Kombat 2. I'm not sure if we talked about this before. I know the trailer's come up, but I don't know if we actually talked about it on the show. But yeah, the first trailer was like just kind of focusing entirely on Luke Cage and how he gets involved in the games. This kind of is more just a broad,
This is a
general trailer for the whole.
for the movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
This gives you like a more broad strokes picture of the movie. And the big thing in the movie, besides obviously, Carl Urban's Johnny Cage, which we knew from the last trailer, the big thing is they're finally doing the tournament in this movie.
Yeah.
If you didn't know, Mortal Kombat is about a tournament, and no tournament happened in the first movie. So they are doing the tournament in this movie.
In the last movie, that there was a sudden needle drop and it went, mortal dialogue!
Yeah,
Mortal talking! Yeah, so getting
Uh,
into like the tournament now in this trailer and stuff.
oh yeah, exactly. It's interesting too because it seems like Johnny Cage is very much the protagonist in this film, and the first film the protagonist was an original character for the movie named Cole Young, who I think is still going to be in this movie, but he's no longer the central protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting. To me, like, it looked better than the first movie. But that's probably because I think and I hope, like, they figured out what worked about the first film and what didn't and, like, adjusted accordingly.
Yeah, I never saw the first movie, or the first of this series of movies. I saw like, the original movie, but I never saw the first movie that directly preceded this. I've heard almost nothing but really bad things though, so I'm curious kind of how this is going to pan out and what the reaction to this is going to be. And like I mentioned to you, I think my plan is like maybe a week before Mortal Kombat 2 hits theaters, I'm gonna, just finally watch Mortal Kombat 1, and then I'll kind of decide if I'm actually going to go see Mortal Kombat 2 in theaters, based on that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, it looks better than the Street Fighter movie.
I don't know, that looks so weird.
It does.
And it looks like it's very tongue-in-cheek, so I'm like curious
in like a bad way. I don't know.
I don't know, like I think like the first Street Fighter movie, the one with like Jean-Claude Van Damme, was like, it wasn't tongue-in-cheek though. It was like, it was taking itself seriously, but it was fucking ridiculous.
It was terrible. And that's the thing. That came out around the same time as the original Mortal Kombat. And my verdict was the same back then. I was like, Mortal Kombat was awesome. It was a great representation of the game. This Street Fighter Van Damme movie is terrible. It doesn't have Street Fighter vibes at all.
But this, the new one that's coming up for Street Fighter 2 or Street Fighter looks much more like tongue-in-cheek. Like, it looks more intentional.
Yeah, it does.
Like it's playing with its format. It's playing with the ridiculousness of its characters. It's not just like taking itself seriously and it's just bad. It's like, it's playing into that, you know? So I'm curious, you know, about that. I don't know, but
we'll have to see.
Yeah. And then lastly, we got the big trailer of the week, which was for House of the Dragon. This trailer dropped, I think, like the day before A Night of the Seven Kingdoms ended.
I think like a week before, because you had this trailer lined up when we did our podcast last Wednesday.
Yeah, but it hadn't screened yet. Like they had it. It was like a preview or like
oh, it was
like when they do the YouTube premieres.
Watch it?
You couldn't watch it.
Oh,
it was
you can't actually watch it. Oh, okay, that's interesting.
So I think it came out like the day after we recorded.
Yeah,
it was like a YouTube.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it came out Thursday. Yeah, so ahead of the finale of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, which because that's ending, so they want to draw up hype for this. Which this season,
I'm kind of surprised they didn't just wait and do it like right before, the episode or something.
You're like right at the end of the episode, like
like a
have the episode end and then like just run the trailer for this to remind people keep those subscriptions active.
Well, they tend to do HBO specifically will tend to do like on a season premiere or a season finale, they'll like air a bunch of trailers for stuff we have never seen before, or they'll do like a combined thing where it's like coming on HBO this year and it'll have like 6 different shows in it or something, you know, and you'll get like, oh, you get to see like the first footage of Lanterns or something for like 2 seconds, or they always do things like that. Like that's kind of like HBO's like the way they operate. So I just thought it was kind of strange that they dropped it not on Sunday. Whether it would be before or after, just I'm surprised they just released it on like a Thursday instead of like right before the show or right after the show, you know? Kind of strange.
Right, yeah. It is kind of strange.
The trailer looks great. It's going to be weird after Night of the Seven Kingdoms just because that was so tonally different.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of like, I think more excited about it than I would have been otherwise because I think that Night of the Seven Kingdoms was like a palate cleanser.
Season 3, this is going to be like, the war is going to be on in earnest. The first 2 seasons don't really like deal with, the war isn't happening. So far, like, there have been like skirmishes and stuff. There have been things where like the war hasn't like started in full force, and that's going to change with this season.
Like, I know a lot of people hated the ending of the second season, but they didn't hate it because the show did anything wrong. They hated it because of what it didn't yet do, which was like the big sea battle that everybody's been waiting for. And it's like, I kind of saw it was like, it's disappointing that there wasn't like some crazy thing or something at the end of the season, but I kind of would rather them do it on the new season and like start that season on like a high note, you know?
Right, yeah, exactly.
So like, we're gonna jump into the season with this crazy ass like naval battle and stuff, and then we're gonna kind of progress through and it's just gonna be this never slowing down season of like crazy things happening. And like, I'm kind of like, I'm up for that. And if that is what they do, and I hope it's what they do, I far prefer that to then just like cramming that whole sea battle into like the finale and then like jumping into the beginning of season 3 all slow and building up again, you know? I kind of hope that it means that season 3 is just going to be a much more eventful season as a whole. I think that in the long run is going to work better for it, but we don't even know if that's going to be the case, or if they're going to jump into that sea battle and then immediately slow down again. We'll have to see what ends up happening with that, but I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, Night of the Seven Kingdoms was like a palate cleanser for me. So it makes me like kind of more excited to like jump back in. Like I'm like, okay, we got to see things from like a commoner's perspective. So like, let's jump back in with the nobles again, you know?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But yeah. And it's always cool seeing, you know, Matt Smith and Amon and like all the different like crazy people on that show and seeing a bunch of dragons again. Cause that's one thing we don't have in Night of the Seven Kingdoms is dragons. Besides like, you know, fake ones used in place.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Cause in the Seven Kingdoms, all the dragons are dead.
Yeah.
And it's funny because in House of Dragon, we get to see how all the dragons died.
Yeah. But yeah, House of the Dragon looks great. I like both seasons of it, despite I know a lot of people had objections about season 2. But like I said, I think most of those objections weren't even about the show making a bad step so much as that they wanted more. Like they wanted that naval battle and it didn't happen yet, you know?
Right, yeah.
And I'm fine with that. I'm hoping that this season just starts big and never slows down, you know? But that's it for our On Beat segment. And now we're going to move on to our final segment, Advocates of Great Entertainment.
Advocates of Great
Great entertainment.
I'm here to kill chaos, bitches!
This week, we are doing our favorite director's best films. So we've each picked what our favorite director is and then picked the film we think is the best film from their catalog. And we're going to discuss those. So my pick was A Simple Plan, which is from Sam Raimi. As I mentioned last week when we talked about the show, I think it's an interesting movie because it's maybe the least Raimi-esque movie he's made, but I still think it's the best movie he's made. I think that it was like him trying to prove himself to say, everybody thinks of me as this kinetic, frantic, director that uses crazy camera angles and everything.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna cut all of that out and still make a good movie.
This movie was interesting because, this doesn't have all the crazy shit from Evil Dead or Dark Man. This is a very, really traditionally shot movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's it looks like a traditional, old school film.
It's a straight character drama.
Yeah. I was watching this, I was like, damn, this doesn't feel like anything they make anymore. I was like, yeah, this is crazy. In a good way, but I ended up loving the movie. The movie is fantastic. Billy Bob Thornton delivers a powerhouse performance.
He was nominated for that.
Yeah.
That was I think the one, and I think it might have gotten 2 nominations. I think it might have gotten a nomination for adapted screenplay too, but he was definitely nominated for Best Supporting Actor.
Yeah.
And he is the standout in that movie, I mean, Bill Paxton's good in everything
Bill
he does
Paxton's
too.
good. Yeah, obviously. Bill Paxton's good. But yeah, Billy Bob Thornton, he had to portray this character, this dim-witted character.
It's interesting because he's dim-witted and he causes trouble, but he also he notices things that his brother doesn't. His brother, the smart character, doesn't recognize certain things because he's all into his own world.
He's into his own world. And Bill Paxton's character is self-assured. He thinks he has everything figured out.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see that every time throughout various points throughout the scheme, everything goes wrong. He instantly has an answer.
Yeah.
And he puts on these airs of he's in control at all times, even when things are spiraling out of control.
Yeah. It's very much showing kind of his naivete. And it's, his wife is also an example of, she's, played by Bridget Fonda. When he proposes the idea of what they're going to do with the money to her, before he even tells her they have the money, she takes the moral high ground of well, no, it's still stealing. And then the second he reveals it to be real, you can see the shift in her.
Oh yeah, yeah. When it's a hypothetical situation, she takes the moral high ground, but when it's a real situation, she's very easily corrupted by the money.
Yeah, and the decisions she makes are a lot of what leads to the complications.
Oh yeah.
That happen,
he listens to her, it's funny because Bill Paxton's there, his character's there, and he's oh, I got everything figured out. I know what I'm going to do. This is perfect. If I'm ever going to get caught, we're going to burn the money. And then she's sitting there going, oh, wait, no, but I'm smarter than you, and I'm thinking about these scenarios, and this is what you got to do.
Mm-hmm.
And he's listening to her.
And it is interesting because they are, the maneuvers they're making, the plans they're making, the things they're doing are, smart, but they're, missing something. And that's, what I said, Billy Bob Thornton's character, he's very dim-witted, and he makes bad mistakes that, really, screw things up.
And
but at the same time, he's, more observant about certain things than they are,
Yeah.
And that makes it interesting. He's seeing the holes in their plan, and they're not going to listen to him because he's dim-witted.
Yeah, oh yeah. It's interesting because Jacob is the character's name. He sits back and he observes everything around him quietly. He's quietly observing what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody else is doing that. Hans certainly isn't doing that. He's always wrapped up in the moment, wrapped up in his scheme, what he's doing.
Yeah.
To pay attention to what's happening.
It's interesting how Jacob dropped these bombshells on Hank, about his dad and stuff, that things that he recognized that Hank just had no idea.
Yeah. There's the one point, where he just casually says, their dad killed himself. And Han's taken aback. He's what? And Jacob's well, I thought you already knew, and it's because he drove off of a ramp on the interstate, and he just calmly tells him, he's Dad drove that road 8,000 times as part of his job. You think somebody who knows the road that well is going to take a wrong turn like that?
Or the other part where he talks about how, like, his dad lost the farm, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, it never put it together that it was because he paid for his education.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it makes his character so interesting because we've seen the dimwit before, you know?
Yeah.
But, like, seeing the dimwit that is actually, like, picking up on certain things that everybody else isn't is kind of like a novel take on that type of character, that archetype.
Yeah. And his brother, Kain, he doesn't know these things because he's inside of his own head. He's only thinking about himself at all times.
Yeah.
That's the thing about that character. He's just thinking about where he is, what's his station. He's all about himself.
Mm-hmm. I think it's really interesting how stripped back Raimi went with this movie.
Yeah.
You know, like, everything's kind of black and white. Like, it's very snow-filled. But like, the trees look like black because of the contrast, you know? But then they're covered in snow, which is white. So it's like, everything's got this, like, very, like, sharp contrast to it when you're, like, outside. Like, everything's shot that way. And he's not doing, like, crazy camera work and stuff. He's sticking in close on shots of the characters.
These are, like, very traditional film shots, you know? Yeah.
I mean, he is doing some interesting things. There's a really cool shot where he's talking to Jacob, and Jacob's, like, laying in bed kind of face down, and the shot's kind of, like, on Jacob's face, looking over as, like...
Oh, yeah.
As he's, like, tucking him in, kind of, or whatever, and they're doing some, like, cool, like, rack focuses and stuff. So there's some cool stuff, but it's, like, subtle. It's not, like, in your face. So I think this is what I really dug about this. This is, like, the movie that Sam Raimi, like, proved himself with.
Right.
So, like, I'm not just a bunch of flashy camera angles. I can actually, like, construct a really
It's
good
like
narrative.
a very good movie too, and it's a very like tightly packed, condensed narrative. Like there is no wasted space. Like there's no scenes that are just like unnecessary dialogue, or no scenes where they're like, oh yeah, why was that in there? You know, there's no like loose ends or plot holes that I could think of. You know, it's kind of like every scene in that film, like it is there to move the story along. You know, and it's this very, you know, and it's the way that things ramp up too, you know, like you start out normal, you meet these characters, then not too far into the movie they get into the situation with the money, then they're talking about the money, then shit's going wrong, people are dying, bodies start dropping one by one. It all happens like at a very brisk pace, you know, even though like it's a 2-hour movie, it feels like things are happening at a very brisk pace, like the movie's not dragging, it's very like well paced, well done.
It's like they build tension, and then it just kind of, instead of like exploding in some glorious moment, something just happens, and it kind of comes out of nowhere. A perfect example would be like when Jacob killed the farmer.
Yes.
You know, hit him in the back of the head, or I guess he didn't end up killing him, you know.
No, he doesn't end up killing him, but like, that's another thing where like, you see that and you're like, oh, that was surprising to me. There's some things that aren't surprising, just because like, if you watched enough, you can pretty much figure it out. Like Lou, the second he's introduced, you know Lou is not long for this world. He's Jacob's belligerent friend, you know? So you know that's coming at some point. And it does in like a very spectacular fashion, by the way.
Oh yeah, that was the crazy scene, like at the house, where just how it erupted and how his like wife got involved and how all that panned out was like crazy. It all just kind of like worked.
I will say it was stupid and a mistake on Anne's part to tell Lou that he recorded him. Like there was like no reason to do that.
Yeah.
Especially,
it was to get him in line. It's because Lou was pushing so hard for them to like use the money right away. And he was like trying to do that. The move was to like get him in line. But that's the thing. And that's why Jacob was reluctant to do it too. Besides the fact that Lou is his friend, is that he observes and understands the character of his friend. And Hank doesn't, because Hank is like, just doesn't care, you know?
Yeah. Like Hank was trying to get him in line, but like if he listened to his wife's idea was to get Lou locked up to get him out of the picture. You know, that was her idea. That was the plan. Or at least that's the way I understood it at the time from her perspective. Her idea was she get that on tape, get that confession, give that to the cops, that's the way to get him out of the picture.
I think it was actually more because that would have exposed their plan. I think it was actually more what it ended up being, which is that it was to keep him in line, but I think Hank misplayed it, you know?
Yeah.
He made Lou feel like an idiot and made him feel angry about that and outraged.
And made him feel trapped. And you're dealing with somebody who clearly has anger issues, right?
Who's mercurial,
Who's mercurial and also like very drunk. And if you've seen angry drunk, like people who are angry drunks are prone to great bouts of spontaneous violence.
Yeah.
And that's like Hank did not figure that into his calculations. And again, that's another thing where like everything goes horribly wrong, horribly out of control. Jacob ends up killing Lou because Lou is going to shoot Hank. Hank ends up killing Lou's wife. And then that's another situation where everything has gone horribly wrong, but like immediately like Hank has the answer. He has the solution. The situation is under control. He starts shooting random shotgun shells all over the place. And he says, like he already has a story set up and Jacob just has to go along with it.
Yeah.
It's the way these things happen, and then immediately Hank believes he has the solution immediately.
God, I swear, every time Jacob went rogue, it was like anxiety inducing.
Yes.
Like when he walked up and Hank's like, oh, what's going on? And he's all like, oh, did you hear that plane? Or, it was like,
right.
Oh, what the fuck are you doing? Or like when Jacob was like gonna turn himself in for about the farmer, and he's like, this is my decision, and it's like, Hank's like, well, you gotta realize that now I'm wrapped up in this. So it's not just your decision. It's you expose that, you're exposing everybody, it's too late now.
Jacob very clearly wanted an off-ramp. He wanted out of the situation multiple times.
He took it at the end. He basically forced his brother to kill him in order to protect himself by saying, like, if you don't kill me and, like, make your story work and get out of this situation, then I'm gonna shoot myself in the head and then you're not gonna be able to cover that up anymore. And you're gonna have to explain that. So just do it. Just put me out of my misery. Which was like a hard turn, made even harder by the fact that this movie has a very dark ending, which is basically in the end, none of it mattered.
Yeah.
Like, there is no upside. Like, they didn't get away with the money. Like, it's done,
Oh, no, yeah, because, like, after they killed the fake FBI agent, Gary Cole, by the way, who turned out to be, like, one of the criminals who was involved with the money in the first place, because, like, for all the scheming, I don't know, like, how anybody, let alone Hank, didn't realize that the people responsible for that money being there were not going to come back for it. He thought it was, like, only the pilot. $4 million usually has more than one person involved.
Especially in 1998.
Yeah, especially in 1998. And that's a really intense sequence, too, when, like, Hank thinks he's just got to outsmart this FBI agent, and then his wife is the one who comes up with, that's probably not the FBI. And you can see, like, the oh shit on his face. Because at that point, he doesn't know what to do about the situation. And then when he's, like, trying to improvise his way out of that situation by, like, taking the gun and then just taking, like, the random bullets that he doesn't even know are going to work.
That was probably, like, the most Raimi-esque moment in the movie. Was all the stuff with the gun and the bullets and stuff. The idea that, like, this added stress of, like, okay, you got a gun now, but it's empty. Where are the bullets? Oh, here's a bunch of bullets, but they're from different calibers.
Yeah.
Which fits, and, like, that added stress and stuff. That is pretty Raimi-esque.
Yeah, pretty Raimi-esque, yeah. And the whole thing is, like, the guy turned out to actually be a criminal and, he wasn't the FBI. Mm-hmm. And that was, like, a whole tense sequence towards the end of the movie, where, again, things spiraled out of control. Things went out of hand. And once, like, the freaking sheriff gets killed, and then Hank kills this criminal.
That was a good scene, too, because it really played into the idea of, like, Hank has been changed by all of this.
Yeah. But, like, you see immediately upon Hank killing the criminal, again, like, Hank immediately, he has a story. He has it figured out. He comes up with a narrative to explain to the authorities why what happened. That doesn't cast him and Jacob in suspicion. Again, the wheels are turning and he has an answer again. And Jacob, at that point, is just like, no, I'm not going along with this any longer.
I want out.
Yeah.
But what's interesting to me there, too, is just how quickly because the Gary Cole's character completely underestimated Hank's, like, ability to use violence,
Yeah.
Because he was right to peg Hank as somebody who isn't cold-blooded that would have trouble, like, firing or something.
Well, it's funny because
everything that happened in the course of the movie.
Yeah, before everything happened in the course of the movie. And, like, there is a point in the movie, too, where, like, Hank's wife tells him he could get away with these murders because he's the last person people would suspect.
Yeah, I think she says something along the lines of, like, nobody would expect you to be the kind of person that could do the things that you've done.
Yeah, to do things that you've done, yeah. So it's very funny, like, at the end of the movie when Gary Cole's character is like, you're not a cold-blooded killer, when at this point he's responsible for, like, multiple deaths, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he just kills them, like, instantly. Like, no hesitation. Just like, I think you pegged that one wrong. You know?
Yeah, he pegged that one wrong, yeah. And yeah, because you get to the end of the movie, and then he finds out he can't keep the money because the FBI, like, has the serial numbers on the bills. Like,
yeah, they copied, like, one in every other bill or something like that.
Yeah, so they can track them if they're spent. And once he finds that out, it's over. He has to burn the money just like he promised. He promised, if there was any chance of them getting caught, he'd burn the money. So the ending of the film is melancholy because he's right back where he started the film at, but now he's lost a brother.
Yeah, not only that, but I mean, his relationship with his wife is now strained. His moral character is stained, like forever. Like he's just ruined, and they have that part in because it's narrated, and he says, like, there's narration at the beginning and end of the movie. And at the beginning of the movie, he talks about the fact that he didn't realize that he was happy.
Yeah, he didn't realize that he was happy.
And then he gets caught up into that, and then the narration at the end of the movie is like, sometimes I don't think about Jacob, or like, we don't think about everything that happened, but those days are few and far between,
Yeah. Oh yeah, because he ends the film having gained nothing and lost a lot of things. It's not everything. He still has his marriage, even though it's strained. He still has his daughter. He still has a job. It isn't everything, but he has lost a lot. And he has gained absolutely zip through the entire experience.
Yeah, that makes it such a dark ending, like such a gut punch ending, that little tidbit that they add in about the serial numbers is like, oh.
Yeah, after all that, the money was worthless.
Yeah.
Which is probably what you should have assumed from the jump, but,
Yeah.
Greed does shit to you. It gets the best of you.
Yeah. One last thing I'll say about this movie before we move on is that Sam Raimi, he really wanted to affect people in kind of a subtle way with this movie. So they did, like I said, there's some cool shots, but they're subtle. There's like a cool rack focus. There's cool stuff they're doing with contrast with like the snow and the branches and stuff to really make like the scenery pop and stuff, but without making it like look dynamic or like, really notably so. But one of the things he did that was really interesting is that Danny Elfman did the score for this movie, and they detuned the instruments so that the instruments are just slightly out of tune as they're playing, and so it just makes you feel uncomfortable because it's just not quite right.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is like just a really clever like psychological trick. And again, that's something that's very Raimi-esque, is to play with like psychology, like how things affect people in his movies. That's why he gets so vicious with like the Evil Dead movies and stuff. It's because he knows how to like find that point where people would flinch and then just push a little bit past it to make them like really uncomfortable. And I think he does a good job of that here with like the way they did the music and just the way the story progresses and builds and stuff. But yeah, I agree with you that there is like no wasted shots in this movie. This is like everything kind of has a purpose and a point. I used to refer to it as like a perfect movie, and that doesn't mean that it's like the best movie ever or anything like that. That's not what I mean by perfect. I mean perfect in the sense that there's nothing wrong, like everything has its point in its place.
Right, yeah, exactly.
But that was my movie, and now we're going to move on to your movie. Tell us about your movie.
My movie it's from the Coen brothers. It's The Big Lebowski, which I know the Coen brothers are most famous for Fargo. I know, like, that's their most popular, like, most lauded film.
Oddly enough, very similar to Simple Plan in the sense that it's like this Minnesota set,
Oh, yeah. Although, like, it's very much, like, Fargo is, like, a lot more quirky.
Yeah,
it deals with, like, weird characters where, like...
But it's that, like, it's the Midwest snowy, like, environment, it's very, like, similar.
Yeah, very similar vibes, yeah. But no, this is set in, sunny California, so this has nothing to do with Minnesota. There's no snow in this movie whatsoever, as far as I know.
I think there might be some cocaine, if I remember correctly.
There was cocaine, yes.
A different kind of snow.
Different kind of snow. This is interesting, because this is, like, one of the best comedies I've ever seen. This is kind of like a comedic detective noir type story.
And this is what the Coen brothers are really good at, is like making just compelling, weird, kind of just slightly off-kilter characters,
Yes, because the main character is the guy who's known as the Dude. His real name is Jeff Lebowski, which is the character's name, the dude's name, like, actually figures into the plot. okay.
Well, the titular character is somebody
Yeah.
with the same name.
Yeah, because the whole, basic plot is this woman who's married to Jeffrey Lebowski, who is like a millionaire.
Very Republican coded.
Yeah, very Republican coded. She owes money to this porn kingpin, this producer of porn, and he sends his goons to kind of rough up Lebowski to get him to give them the money that they're owed. They end up going to the dude's house and roughing him up before realizing he's the wrong Jeff Lebowski. And they piss on his rug on the way out. And that's kind of that's the inciting.
It sucks because that tied the whole room together.
It tied the whole room together. It's funny because that, for him, that's the inciting incident that spurs him to action, as his rug was pissed on and he just wants to get his rug reimbursed.
Yeah. And then it's just a series of moments where he's caught up in the machinations of other people and he's kind of the odd one out in every situation he's in.
Yes, exactly. Because not long after that, he goes to the mansion of Jeff Lebowski and demands a replacement rug. And then he kind of tricks Lebowski's assistant, played by,
Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Philip Seymour Hoffman, in a really funny role. He tricks him into giving him a rug from the mansion. And at that point, he meets Bunny, who's Lebowski's trophy wife, and her nihilist friend Yuli. And shortly after that meeting, she ends up being kidnapped. And the Big Lebowski, the titular Big Lebowski, contacts the dude and asks him for help in making a handoff, handing off the ransom money.
Mm-hmm.
So he kind of recruits him, and that just leads to him becoming deeply involved in all of this goings on, the machinations. Mm-hmm. And along for the ride are his bowling buddies, Walter.
And speaking of dim-witted characters, Donnie.
Yeah, Walter and Donnie, played by John Goodman and Steve Buscemi.
It's so weird seeing Steve Buscemi so young again.
Yeah.
It's been so long since I've seen him look so young,
And it's so hilarious, too, because poor Steve Buscemi plays this character, I don't know if he's, dim-witted or clueless. He's just, in his own world, but Walter's always yelling at him.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
Walter's a conspiracy nut that's always involved in all sorts of shit,
Yeah, he's a conspiracy. He's a Vietnam veteran. He has PTSD, and he's constantly talking about Vietnam, even when the situations have nothing to do with Vietnam. And he's just great.
Yeah. It's all the kind of character moments that make it work, because it's
yes.
He's Jewish and he's very proud of his Jewish history, but he's not actually he converted for his wife and now it's his ex-wife, and he's still taking care of her dog and still living the faith and stuff.
Yeah, he's still practicing Judaism.
It's I guess you can give him one thing, and that's commitment,
Right, yeah, commitment.
It's it is just filled with lots of weird characters played by interesting people. You mentioned Philip Seymour Hoffman's character, Brandt, who's kind of the manservant of the Big Lebowski. You got Julianne Moore as his daughter, who's older than his girlfriend,
Yeah.
Who's this crazy artist. David Thewlis is in this.
Yeah, David Thewlis is in this.
I'm trying to think, because I know you've seen him you saw him maybe in Fargo. I don't know if you watched that season of Fargo, but I know you saw him in Sandman.
Yeah.
But it was weird seeing David Thewlis, going oh, this is before I knew who he was, and it's watching it again, it's oh yeah, that's David Thewlis. And then you have, the nihilist characters, which includes Peter Stormare, which of course, and Flea.
And Flea, yeah.
And then you talk about characters that are big and bigger than life and pop. John Turturro as the Jesus.
He's great. He's a minor character, but
they made a spin-off movie about him, I think.
Yeah, John Turturro did. Yeah, the Coen brothers had no involvement with that.
Yeah.
That was entirely... Yeah, I didn't see that movie. I saw the preview, but as far as I can tell, that was entirely a John Turturro project. He wrote... I don't know if he directed it, but he definitely wrote and produced it.
Mm-hmm.
That was his thing. But I had actually watched it.
I haven't seen it either.
Yeah.
It's just kind of interesting, And then you have Sam Elliott as this wise old narrator. Yeah. It's a cowboy just randomly.
Yes, cowboy talking about the dude he's this mythic figure. Really funny.
Yeah.
Because we open the movie Sam Elliott's narration talking about the dude, and he's just in a fucking bath towel in the middle of a supermarket. He gives the cashier a check for 5
97 cents or something
like
that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, and some change. Yeah, because he doesn't have any money.
Yeah,
because he doesn't doesn't have a job. Like, the whole thing about the dude is, like, he's an unemployed bum.
Yeah.
He doesn't do anything except for go to the bowling alley.
Kind of like an ex-hippie who, like, you know, was involved in, like, counter movements and stuff, like, in the 60s or whatever. And they talking about his history. They're going through things like I was part of the Seven or whatever. Then this is this group that was, like, considered, like, a almost terrorist group, or, like, the kind of thing you would have in, like, the hippie movements and stuff, you know, these counter movements. And
he always has, like,
that's
a white Russian in his hand, you know, like.
Yeah. Always putting on his sunglasses when he's getting frustrated, or.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it's just interesting how the characters interact and how the things come about, and just how easygoing the dude is. Because he's like, even when he's being, like, beaten up by people, he's just still, like, just talking to him, you know?
Yeah, he's still, like, just talking to him. Yeah, exactly. Easygoing if you're not playing the Eagles. That one scene where he's in, like, in a cab and playing Hotel California is like, man, I've had a rough night and I hate the fucking Eagles. And the cab driver gets, like, pissed off at him and kicks him out of the cab.
This movie has a lot of, like, weird, trippy dream sequences and stuff. So I saw this movie, I didn't see it in theaters. I saw it on video. Like I rented it from, like, a video store back when that was a thing on VHS. I think, like, a long time ago. Like when this was new to video stores. So out of theaters, but new to video stores. And I haven't seen it since. So this is, like, me rewatching it. So, like, there are things I remember. And it was, like, interesting to go, like, oh, okay, that's what that was. Like, I had a vivid memory about the whole, like, the dream sequence with him being bowled down the alley between all these women's legs, or, like, I just checked in to see what my condition's in, you know, to that song, and, like, the dancing and all the bowling balls or the bowling shoes at the counter that reach to the sky, and, like, that whole dream sequence is, like, vividly in my memory, but I don't have any context of where it's from, except when I rewatch the movie, and then it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I see where this is coming in now, you know?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it's funny, too, because, yeah, this is a kidnapping mystery with the missing girl. Only, like, it turns out she was never kidnapped. She, like, just went out of town, and her nihilist friends took advantage of the opportunity that she was gone, and her husband didn't know where she was to, like, blackmail him. Mm-hmm. And that was, like, the whole thing.
It is kind of funny because everything kind of comes to a close when the nihilists burn his car, and then they're confronting them outside of the bowling alley, and Walter's like, oh, fuck, these guys are cowards or whatever, and just starts kicking the shit out of them.
Yeah.
And
and
then Steve Buscemi's character just dies of a heart attack. He just, like, has a heart attack just because of everything happening, not because anything happened to him, you know?
No.
And then Walter has, like, a hissy fit about paying too much for an urn, so they use, like, a Folgers coffee can.
Yeah, they releases the ashes over a cliff. Walter, like, starts eulogizing Donnie, but then he starts talking about Vietnam. Yeah. You know, again.
And the ashes all flow back from the wind and just basically all end up on the dude.
Yeah.
It's funny because when my grandmother passed away, she was cremated and we scattered her ashes on like a boat, like into the ocean, and some of her ashes like floated back and landed like on my sister's face.
Damn.
And we joked at the time that like my sister and my grandma are like very similar, like personality wise, like very type A, very like controlling, you know? And so we joked at the time that basically my grandma like anointed my sister with her ashes, you know? Like, oh, you are my true successor. So it was funny seeing like, a scene where the ashes get blown back on someone's face, you know, is like kind of reminded me of that. And it's funny because my grandma died like after I had seen this the first time. So I remember the ashes scene, but I don't have it in that context until I saw it again this time. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, now I have this other context for it.
Oh, that's funny. I remember like showed this to my grandparents, or watched this with my grandparents. My grandma was like, why, there's so much cussing in this movie.
Well, and they had that part with like the stranger saying that directly to him, like, you know, oh, if I'd say one thing, maybe, you know, why so much cussing? And he's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
He's like, oh, okay then.
Yeah, this is quintessential zany Coen brothers, where the narrative like basically exists just to have like these bizarre characters and to rotate out like all these weird characters and like have them shine, you know?
It doesn't go full mythological in the way that like Oh Brother Where Art Thou or Raising Arizona does, where they literally have like depictions of like the Black Rider of Death or something in Raising Arizona, or like in Oh Brother Where Art Thou, it's literally a retelling of the Odyssey, you know?
There's a little bit of mythologizing of the dude, again, with the narrator, you know.
But it's all kind of like
that's
normal.
about it,
Like he's not doing anything supernatural or something.
No, yeah, exactly.
So it's really interesting to kind of see that perspective of like, it is really just like a straightforward kind of film noir premise. That is done through this weird lens, you know?
Yeah, this weird lens. The dude is not your typical film noir detective hero. He's a reluctant hero. He's kind of like dragged into this, you know, like against his own will.
He's just like sitting around being used as crazy shit's happening all around him.
yeah, exactly.
That is The Big Lebowski. I thought I should address, this was not intentional, but it's just kind of funny how the Coen brothers and Sam Raimi, if you follow the directors, they're very tight-knit. Like they're good friends. They've worked together for a long time. Joel Coen, I believe, I think it was Joel, was the editor for the original Evil Dead.
Yeah.
This is like before either of them had like a feature film out, you know, and they had met, I think they went to New York to edit the movie, and they encountered the Coen brothers, and the Coen brothers, they weren't known directors or anything, and then they struck up a friendship with them, and Joel Coen is in the credits as the editor for the Evil Dead. He edited that movie. And then A Simple Plan, Sam Raimi reached out to the Coen brothers when he was making it because he was filming in those conditions with all like the whiteout snow and stuff. And he literally reached out to them because they had done Fargo and said like, I need some advice on what to do as far as like shooting this movie, like to take advantage of the contrast and how to shoot for all that white and stuff. And you can still see it in the movie, like any shot where it's just completely snow-filled. If you look in like the background, it's very grainy. This was like the limitation of film at the time, you know? Where like now they would digitally correct that. But it's like, you could see like the artifacting of like, back then it was really hard. If you wanted to film something in a snowy environment, it was difficult, you know? You'd overexpose the film, then you'd have issues and everything. And so Raimi reached out to the Coen brothers specifically about that, like to get advice and stuff. And then Raimi's been involved with like other things they've done. Like Raimi wrote like a part of the Hudsucker Proxy, which is like another movie they did. He just wrote like a short scene in that movie, and Bruce Campbell was in that movie in like a very short role, a very small role. So it's just interesting how like interconnected those two are, and that they ended up being our picks.
Yeah, it is kind of funny, isn't it?
Yeah, because none of it was planned, you know? It's just like, I picked mine, you picked yours, and it just happened to line up that way. But it was just kind of interesting. I thought that was a unique thing.
Honestly, I picked mine because I was just like reciting freaking lines from Big Lebowski, and I was like, oh yeah, why don't I just like do that?
It's funny because I had watched something right after I rewatched The Big Lebowski. I think it was like an interview or something, like some talk show interview. And the talk show host said to the guests, like, the guest said something about a rug, and he said, I bet it really ties the room together.
Yeah.
When I watched both these movies, I watched it with my mom, and she hadn't seen The Big Lebowski. And so I like looked over at her and I'm like, it's from the movie we just watched. He's referencing a 20-plus-year-old movie, and it just happened to be like the day after we watched the movie that like we saw that reference. So I thought that was kind of funny. That kind of works funny. Like that, you know, like, and it's not necessarily because it just happened to line up like that. It's just that The Big Lebowski is one of the most like memed and referenced movies of all time.
It is.
I think that's a big difference between like A Simple Plan and The Big Lebowski is that.
Well, it's like endlessly.
The Big Lebowski quotable. Is like probably the movie people think of when they think of the Coen brothers.
Well, it's and like one of those movies
is like completely slept on when it comes to Sam Raimi.
It is. Oh yeah, because like it's not bombastic as most Raimi, and also like, you know, it is a character drama first and foremost, where like The Big Lebowski is a comedy. The Big Lebowski has like so many quotable lines. Mm-hmm. I would say there's a lot of quotable lines in like A Simple Plan. It's a great movie, but it's not a movie you're going to be quoting randomly to people, because all the dialogue in that is like very like intentional and like only makes sense in the context of that movie.
Pineapple.
Yes. They're very different. What I'm trying to say, they're very different kinds of movies.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. It's just kind of, it's always interesting to me when like little connections happen. Like I said, the whole Sam Raimi, Coen brothers and their friendship and how that connected. Also that they both just happened to be on Prime. I don't think that's ever happened to us in any of the times that we've done Advocates, where like the things that we're watching were on the same streaming service. I don't think that's ever happened before. And we've done this, like, I don't know, 20-something times we've done Advocates, and I don't think they've ever lined up like that before.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So it's just kind of like weird, what do they call it, kismet, just like coincidence, or, you know.
Right, yeah, kismet, yeah.
But, yeah, so that is it for A Simple Plan and The Big Lebowski for our Advocate segment. If you haven't watched these movies and you feel like you're spoiled by it, just watch them anyways. They're really good movies. But yeah, I hope that anybody listening along did get a chance to watch the movies before the discussion, because I think that it is kind of interesting parallels and differences between them and stuff and what's going on with that. But next week, we're finally going to be getting to A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. Of course, we're going to cover this. There's no doubt in our minds. We probably would have covered it this week if this hadn't been our 225th episode. That would have been our topic this week, but we do Advocates every 25 episodes, so like we had to do that. We locked in with that, and now we're going to catch up and do A Night of the Seven Kingdoms next week as our main topic. So stay tuned for that. If you haven't watched A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, and it's funny because a lot of people, I think, either still haven't watched it or like they tuned in after like half of the series was out because they suddenly like were hearing all sorts of good things about it. It's interesting seeing people's perspectives on it. A lot of people didn't want to give it a chance. Like they were just kind of burned out by Thrones, you know? But yeah, it's really good, and that's what we're going to be talking about next week. So stay tuned for that. Until then, you can follow me on Twitter on Blue Sky. I'm at Tyson Gifford. You can follow Will. He is at Voxel Hero. You can check out our website, thetotalscreen.blogspot.com. If you go to our website and open up a container story for any of our podcast episodes, scroll down to the bottom paragraph. You'll find all of the links to our social accounts, our RSS feed, all that stuff's there. You can also subscribe to our podcast through your favorite podcast client of choice, like Apple Podcasts or Pocket Casts, and the entire backlog of our podcast, as well as additional content, like the entire 300 episode run of our old podcast, is all available on our YouTube channel, so you can check that out as well. Until next week, thank you everybody for listening. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you for listening to the OnScreen podcast, the official podcast of The Total Screen. Visit our website at thetotalscreen.com. This podcast can be found on any major podcast client, including Pocket Cast and Apple Podcast. The entire backlog of this podcast and other content can be found on our YouTube channel.